Thank you for joining us today. My name is Facundo Corvala. I'm from San Luis, Argentina. I work at the University of San Luis, and it's a pleasure to be here today to expose my research about the confrontation between Karl Menger and the German Historical School. First, the science of human action and the theoretical studies of so completely throughout history in general, because they have fit object of partial or totally different studies. A reflection of this is the disciplinary relationship that exists between history and economic. This conflict is given because the discipline lives with two quite dissimilar sciences. A first manifestation of this, the battle of methods, arises a methodological conflict whose public problem focus on establishing a theory of the study of social sciences. Such a conflict is carried out on the hand by the German Historical School, headed by Gustav von Schmoller, and the other by the founder of the Austrian School of Economics, Karl Menger, at the end of the 19th century. The importance of the conflict is that it is a great implication in the study of the social sciences in the 19th century. Thus, the debate has continually directed by the disciples and the followers of both representatives and has opened to the discussion of other intellectual currents. In the first place, Menger, whose principle of political economy becomes a founding document of the movement and as a fundamental work in the history of economic thought, we will explore its main details within the variety of its themes. However, to understand the Austrian approach, it is not enough to simply review the ideas of its reference, since we recognize the fundamental fact that the Austrian School is a movement formed in opposition. In fact, the same name was given by its directors and was intended to be pejorative. Therefore, the first rival of the Austrians, the German Historical School, and their methodologies, policies, and academic situation, which take place when the two schools compete for power, prestige, and academic positions. The Germans quickly dominate their Austrian competitors, although somehow the Austrian movement joined in more. The rivalry between the two schools of thought, known as the Battle of Methods, was definite element in the first 20 years of the existence of the Austrian School. The initial planning of the philosophy or politics moves away until the formation of science that sought to get rid of both. In this way, the economy refrains from falling into speculative postulates that lack observation or reality-induced practical policies that do not recognize the interrelation between economic policy issues and individuals. The classical British economy finds the emerging capitalism and orderly mechanism of income and price policies, and separating the two sources of the economy. Philosophy takes on the task of microeconomic ethical research, and political provides the element for finding a regulated macroeconomic order. In this way, the British classical discarded the political and ethical elements to put into effect a different economic mechanism with respect to the macro and micro elements. In this sense, the German Historical School is generally classified as attempt to generate an academic intellectual space as opposed to the British classical economy. This attempt crystallized with the assertion that economy principles must be derived inductively throughout the study of man's political and social behavior, only visibly through historical events. In other words, classical economic theory finds in the continent a certain hostility, mainly due to political predispositions. The political economy developed by several generations of English thinkers exposed by Adam Smith and perfected by Ricardo is shown as a result of the principle of element that essentially saw the liberal doctrine or representative government. In this way, some privileges are attacked, and it is not surprising that it produces a negative reaction for the injured parties. The crystallization is not immediate. The origin of the German historicism must be sought in the synthesis of the German nationalist and the idealist ideas that emerged as a reaction of rationalism, of which classical economy was one of its results. In this way, it's become understandable that thinkers like Herder, Müller, and Liszt are considered precursors of the historicists. When Schmoller, as rector of the University of Berlin, offered a speech on the occasion of inaugurating the academic year, he remarks that today's economy seeks a historical and ethical conception of the nation and society, as opposed to the rationalism and to materialism. Along these lines, Schmoller will be dedicated to conducting comparative study that reflects a clear trend towards institutional and procedural evolutionary analysis. By this means, it addresses the need to consolidate a criterion of the cultural specificity of the policy and their correlation in the configuration of exchange relations. Consequently, with the process of industrialization that was emerging in Central Europe, the role of the German economies will change rapidly. At the University of Berlin, there was an inadequacy of the formation of the chairs of resource management with respect to necessary perspective that modernization needed. It seems that lawyers who deal with these problems. This phenomenon was totally unknown in Austria. The study of the School of Law from Vienna direct to economic scope were solid enough to face the commercial vicissitudes. Under other conditions, the areas related to the economy in the academic fields of Austria began to develop in the middle of 18th century. In this sense, it was the discipline of cameralistic, with a more administrative tendency, that took the center stage in the study of distribution of resources. By beginning to consolidate itself as an autonomous or respective university center, the university where Menger was studying began to generate hostility to teaching of the classical economy taught in Berlin. During the 1870s, the division between Austrian and German academics claimed all political and cultural struggles based on the defeat of Austria at the hands of Prussia in 1966. Even Vienna's students began to fight against the Austrians. The conflict over method is clearly seen in the investigation into the method, where Menger intended to show, in addition to refuting Schmoller's theoretical arguments, a new theoretical approach to investigation of the science of human nature. Although many expect to evolve our widely accepted principles today, others generate separate questions that took the stage of the substance methodological discussions. The problem of being stuck within the world of theoretical contributions seemed to be solved in the path of two somewhat dissimilar paths. On the one hand, it was addressing a somewhat more historical approach to becoming acting on economic history, and, by the another, it sought to overcome the problem through the improvement of economic development theories. The last solution was, in a most indissoluble mix with anti-positivist academic environment of social sciences in Vienna, the path of Menger took. Menger's work represents, in addition to a treatise of the method of social sciences, an attempt to unify the market change in the study of economics with theoretical human sciences. Menger has, as a result of this work, the virtue of directing a historical or subjective value towards a thoroughly novel approach of social sciences. The innovative conception expressed that economy was the door to analyze a new perspective in the prediction of the action of man or the interpretation of his motivations. This new conception entered a clear confrontation with the inductivist approach that prevailed in the German intellectual environment, which considered that economic sciences occupy a lower position under the ages of history. This gave rise to a dispute that remains in force until today, and is one the concern of history about economy and vice versa. Menger strengthened in the economy of 20th century the premise that maintains the network of existing relation between politics, power, ethics, and economics were subordinate to the latter as the science is the best articulated with the instrumental with the theoretical. Thank you. Menger tried not to extend the objective of economic sciences to the philosophy of social sciences, but if he establishes the connection of theoretical social sciences, especially in economic, with the theoretical human action to the functioning of the social institution. Here, the innovation postulates concept to opening to the analysis of social phenomena to the study of the subjective values. In this way, abstract rationalism was accused of having erroneous consideration of the conception of the economic and social sciences. According of this vision, the socio-economic problem raised by the German in their study cannot be analyzed through a historical approach and science. From Menger, economic is not a science of history, nor is history based on sciences. The second margin of the economy. In this sense, the theoretical research in economic and historical research are two dissimilar companies with different objects, methods, and problems. After the mentioned innovation are considered of relevant work, it should be noted that there were elaborate for criticisms made to the new German Historical School and always firm to the epistemological limits of sciences of economics with respect to economic history. There is currently no finished line of interpretation as to why our authors dedicate to criticize the Berlin research program when he was aware that it was a conflict of university of, if you like, nationalities, and that the debate epistemological was often relegated. As of this moment, clearly the conflict was not going back. The exposure of the methodological defense of induction or deduction and science attacks of the abstract theorization of the oscillous accumulation of data becomes a scenario of loyalty with its followers. Schmoller is dedicated to thinking theories applicable to need for extensive collection of additional data prior the establishment of general theories, while Menger did not reject empiricism, but identifies it with an essential element of his own theoretical work. In this way, it was impossible to reach a type of conciliation. We conclude that it was a movement of great energy in the last section. However, we should not keep this last image. It should to be mentioned that the personal confrontation between our authors does not allow us to glimpse the fact the Vienna economists and the historians share some point of view. In conclusion, from the context analysis, integration of the external and internal aspects of the idea system is sought. This work allows to identify the academic and political factor of our authors and the influences received in the training processes of the Austrian School of Economics and the German Historical School. It is recognized that the ancestry from positivism and the theoretical elements of the classical economy, mainly from Adam Smith, was truly significant of both. In addition, the influence of environment of the University of Vienna and Berlin was important in consolidating the rethinking of the British economy. On the one hand, I believe that Menger's thinking was derived from a movement which, with its own identity and closely linked to the scientific and ideological debate generated in the sphere of the most important circles of power of Vienna. According to the representative of the Austrian approach, it is responds more adequately than other systems of ideas to the specific needs of organization and regulation raised by industrial development, as well as the demands of social reform imposed by the economic growth of the Central Europe at the 18th and 19th century. Menger represents renewal in the field of economic sciences, this being the conception that man is not only confined in the political and conjunctural frameworks, but that a social being is ontologically constituted by a world governed by universal law. On the theoretical level, the real controversy between Menger and Schmoller was intended to understand the abstract phenomena and empiricism in knowledge. This debate materially represents a conflict of interest in the nature of research topics. One of Menger's most remarkable qualities was his moderate approach, unlike Schmoller, who we think the broad meaning of the method could not accept the balanced version in the way of the Austrians. In summary, there are two major differences that totally separates the paradigms in the school under analysis: the way of seeing the empirical world and the ability to predict. It is real. For Menger, it is a reality that the researcher was not able to handle all the information that he was constantly creating, and neither did he analyze it in a decentralized state by the protagonist of social processes. So there is a theoretical impossibility to carry out empirical tests. In addition, he considered that empirical phenomena are variable. We cannot have tools that allow us to establish parameters because there are variables which make the use of the positivist method impossible in all versions. However, the Austrian assigned great importance to the study of history, since it is that allows the scientist to successfully archive one of the most relevant objectives of economic sciences, that is preparing for future efforts. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone who asks, please?
Yes.
Please.
I never really understood this quarrel between the historic school and the Austrian school, because my answer is you need both. You need history and you need theory. And one is not sufficient and the other is not sufficient. So why quarrel? It is very easy to say you need both.
Yeah, I think that the conflict was because the University of Berlin at the end of 19th century was a powerful center of the social sciences. And the principle of political economics was a revolutionary book in the social sciences. And the German historical school, especially Schmoller, saw that the debate and the interesting debate of social sciences was put to focus on Vienna and not Berlin. In the last sense, I think it was a powerful conflict. That's all. Yes.
Yeah. Well, the way I understood this, like I'm not sure that's not my formal education at all, but the way I understood the Mehodenstrei, it wasn't really history versus theory, but it was methodology. So as far as I would understand it, like history can be, of course, used by Austrian economists, but only in a descriptive manner. And I felt that what the historical school was in opposition to the Austrian school when it comes to the core of methodology. That's how I would see it.
So I think that it was not in superficial analysis. It was a methodological conflict between inductivism and deductive method.
Yes.
But it was a powerful conflict. It was a personal conflict. It was two states that they have been in war 4 or 5 years before the conflict of the method. So I think it was so much situations that confluence and the methodological debate was the explosion. Yes.
Okay, please, Joe.
Okay, just to amplify that point you made about the methodological debate, I think the problem was that Menger was not satisfied with the reception of his first book, which he thought was a revolutionary work and was going to reorient economics.
Yeah.
The historical school didn't want to be bothered with it.
Yeah, I agree.
So then he initiated the Mehodenstrei with a somewhat inflammatory attack on the excesses, the deductive excesses of historical school, but at the same time trying to point out that each method was appropriate to its topic. The historical method, the policy analysis method, the scientific method.
Yes.
And Schmoller, he may have been inflammatory, but Schmoller was frankly abusive in reply, and it just went down like a Twitter exchange from there. as I understand.
Thank
Gotta go to another session.
Thank you.
for doing it. Okay, please.